Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back once again to the Edge Royal Whiskey Club's Whiskey 101 series. Now, today we're actually going to talk about the difference between Scotch whiskey and American bourbons. First and foremost, if someone says the word Scotch, it has to be from Scotland. There's no such thing as you had a great Japanese Scotch last night. You could have had a great Japanese whiskey, but not Japanese Scotch. Scotch is from Scotland. Same with bourbon. Bourbon is from the good old US of A. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be from Kentucky or Tennessee. It can be from Pennsylvania, Alaska. It can be from all over, just as long as within the confines of the United States of America. Therefore, it can be bourbon by definition, and that is the national drink in the States, by the way. So we'll start in Scotland. Now, I did mention before the three ingredients, and only three ingredients, of single malt in Scotland. You've got malted barley, yeast, and water. Now, with blends, like let's say, for example, we've got something like Ballantine's, your blend. With the blends, it'll be a marriage of things like this, a bunch of single malts married together, but then also typically you're going to have a bit of grain in there as well. You don't necessarily have to have grain. In the case of like Monkey Shoulder, it's a vatting or I don't know how the Scottish Malt Society has butchered it, and now they call it a whiskey malt, blended malt or whatever, but no, just remember it's a vatting. No grain, all single malt. Now, single malt's three ingredients only, and from a single distillery, as in everything in this bottle is from the Edredauer distillery, everything in this bottle from Lefroy, everything Highland Park, so on and so on and so on. So that is your Scotch. Three ingredients, blends, a bit of grain, but still. In America, however, you can have, we call mash bills, recipes, however you want to say it, but typically we'll refer to it as a mash bill. Now, the mash bill in America, by law, if the word bourbon is on that bottle, it has to be a minimum of 51% corn, maize, however you'd like to say. And from there, it can change a little bit. And as I've mentioned previously in the Whiskey 101 series, 70-20-10 is a bit of a rule of thumb mash bill. 70% corn, 20% rye, 10% malted barley. Now, since America is not able to use barrels again, like they do in Scotland, they can continue to reuse barrels. They can use barrels from all over the world. Bourbon barrels from America, sherry barrels from Spain, rum casks, all over the show. In America, by law, they can only use those barrels one time only, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, doesn't matter. One use. So to get a different flavor with the American bourbons, they can do things a little bit more creatively. They can have a different mash bill, for example. Let's say you want to have not so much corn. Let's say you pop that corn back to about 55%, but you want it heavy on the rye. So you move that rye up a little bit to, let's say it's 35%. So now you've got 55% corn, 35% rye, and 10% malted barley. Now, you're always going to hear me mention malted barley when it comes to American bourbons because there's a beautiful little enzyme that comes within that barley that helps in the fermentation process. So you're going to always have anywhere from 7 to sometimes as much as 15% malted barley in those mash bills. Now, another beautiful thing they can do is, like in the case of Maker's Mark, they won't use rye at all. They'll actually use wheat instead. So you've got your corn, wheat, and malted barley. And in some other cases, which I'm out of my 4 grains just now, but it's quite popular to use a 4-grain mash bill, which they'll have all 4 married together in there. But that's basically about it. Scotch, your 3 ingredients, malted barley, water, and yeast. And then in America, you've got your typical 3 ingredients of corn, wheat, or rye, and malted barley. But they can shift those recipe numbers around a little bit, and you get amazingly different flavors. So you can have, like, let's just say the standard, 50-20-10. No, 70, my math, 70-20-10. Or you can switch it up if you want heavier on the rye, heavier on the wheat. You can do various things like this to get your different flavor profiles. So that's it, boys and girls. Scotch comparison with the American bourbon comparison. Scotch has to be from Scotland. Bourbon has to be from America. Until next time, see you then. Ciao.